everyone, welcome to Splash and Go. Myself, we got Kyle Petty and Steve Letard on today. We saw incredible racing this weekend, guys. What was the one takeaway from Daytona from each of you?
Well, I don't think the drivers and the crew chief loved having Daytona as the final race of the regular season, but the fans and the TV folks such as myself absolutely loved it. The competitors didn't love it because the stress was high at a track that's already very difficult to try to guarantee any sort of success. You had to go there with perhaps your entire regular season on the line. That was probably the biggest takeaway. A home run, I guess, KP, it would be my thing. I hated moving it off of the 4th of July weekend because of the tradition, but they have given me a great reason, and I'm totally okay with it being race 26.
Yes, I am totally okay with it. I don't know if you can see my hands, but they're still sweating. They're still wet from that race. Intensity, my gosh, man. We got to the end of the first stage, and you guys called it. It looked like the last lap of the Daytona 500. It was crazy when you looked at it. So I think for me, I really enjoyed it. From a competitor standpoint, man, I thank goodness I don't have to go through that. I know you probably don't be on a box right now doing that, but I can't imagine the pressure inside those helmets all night long.
Yeah, I don't know of a time in our sport that we've seen so much pressure on so many. I think the stat going into that race was that there were 18 drivers that could win that race and advance themselves into the playoffs. Think about that. And on top of that, all the people that were in the playoffs, they were still earning points that they could use within those playoffs. And the qualifying order was being placed for this weekend in that race. So, who there didn't have a tremendous amount to gain. Kyle, you've been around this sport longer than Steve and I either one, but have you ever seen a race in which so much pressure was on so many?
No, never seen a race where everybody had something to gain and everybody had something to lose. You said it best right there. From this week, from qualifying, from points. Listen, and we kept talking about Jimmie and William and Matt DiBenedetto, and all of a sudden Tyler Reddick makes a move there, and you look at that and you think, okay, if he wins, this totally messes up everything. This changes everything. So I think there was so much. We saw guys get stage points. We saw the swing. We saw it up and back. I don't believe, and I hear, a couple of times I was doing some different things and people said, I'm sure they're having a lot of fun. And I'm like, you don't know. That's not fun. Man. That's miserable inside those helmets.
So, Steve, what about Kyle mentioned Jimmie Johnson and William Byron. So talk about Jimmie Johnson for a minute. I mean, here's a 7-time champion. We've seen him go home from the playoffs 2 years in a row. Give us some perspective on that.
Well, first of all, Jimmie did it in Jimmie fashion, right? The first thing he said after missing the playoffs was congratulations to my young teammate, William Byron, on his win. Congratulations to Chad Knaus on their win and their berth in the playoffs. I would expect nothing less. But then he followed that up with a statement about 2 races in which they basically received 0 points. They received 1 point at Charlotte after a disqualification and 0 points at Indianapolis because of a COVID-positive test. Indianapolis, I don't know what to say other than just bad luck in 2020. I don't have a better way to look at that. But Charlotte, I don't see it as bad luck. Remember, they were disqualified. They ran second in that race. They gained 46 points. NASCAR threw them out, gave them a last place finish. That cost this team 45 points. They missed the playoffs by 6. So when I hear these conversations about NASCAR needs to ramp up the penalties and do all this, well, maybe we don't connect how severe the penalty really was. Because Jimmie Johnson would be playoff bound right now. Matty D would be out if it wasn't for a disqualification at Charlotte. This is a team that was averaging 26 points a race. Now they jump out of the bushes and score 46 at Charlotte and don't get to reap those rewards. So why I hate it for Jimmie, because he's a star in the sport, and I think the fans deserve to see him race for a championship in his final year. That's not how sports work. Just because you're deserving or just because you, quote, should doesn't mean anything. You got to score the points. And I look back to that day in Charlotte where they were disqualified as perhaps the biggest moment of the year so far for Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah, I want to talk about William Byron some, because I think that obviously, he winning that race meant no matter what happened, he moves on. But I think that all that started at Dover. So, go back and think about Saturday's race at Dover. They were horrible. I mean, they ran bad. Jimmie doubled down on some pit strategy that put them in even a worse situation. They were yapping at each other on the radio, mad. It looked like the wheels were coming off that thing. And then on Sunday, They changed the car. Williams stepped up, ran well all day long, gained points, put a tremendous amount of pressure on Jimmie Johnson. And on a weekend that it looked like Jimmie Johnson was going to take all the points from Williams, that was a step-up moment. And then followed it up this weekend with winning the race. And not only winning the race, putting himself in position all night long to do the things he needed to do to get those points, even if he didn't win the race. I really believe that in a driver's career, there's times where it is a big moment, and are you going to step up or not? And in this situation, Williams stepped up. And I think that makes him immediately more dangerous in the playoffs than he would have been. A confident driver is a better driver. And 2 weeks in a row with that amount of success means a great deal to a young driver especially. So they're going to have an uptick in performance, no doubt. But the driver's confidence, I think, matters, and I think he'll be able to carry that in the playoffs. So now we're at the playoffs, right? And we know that Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin have built this incredible lead, right, on everybody else. But what is fascinating is that if you look at third place Brad Keselowski and Eric Almirola, they are only separated by about 25 points with 3 races in 3 very tough races. So, I think this is going to be a hugely challenging round in the playoffs, and the separation in the field is not very much.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting ready to go short track racing. We're going to start at the Southern 500. Not that that's a big test of anything. 500 miles at the most difficult racetrack. There, in my mind, it's very simple, Kyle. I hate to make it sound this easy, but you better have a good car and a good plan. We go to a lot of races, Pocono, Indy, road courses, where you can get a little crazy with pit strategy. You can cycle the guy to your front. KP, I ask you, you've driven the Southern 500. There's no cycling to the front. If you want to go there, in my mind, that's a track you have to drive there.
Yeah, and listen, nobody knows this better than Jeff Burton. You've got to take it. You've got to take the lead there. And I look at this, and like you said, this round kills me. We talk about ending at Daytona and the pressure there, and then you go Darlington, Richmond, Bristol, all-night races. I mean, I look at that, and I think, oh, my goodness, the 2 Busch brothers in the bottom third of the field when we look at the playoff standings. And I want to go back to something Jeff said, though. I look at William Byron, and I look at Eric Almirola, and I want to take those 2 guys. Eric had a string of top 5 and top 10 finishes, but they came to an end. And I've not heard his name or seen him over the last couple of weeks, it seems like. William Byron seems to be peaking and carrying the momentum, and the confidence of a driver and the confidence of that momentum going into this playoffs, that's important, especially in this first round. And you talk about having a plan. I think Chad last week, man, when he pitted there at the end of the race to put tires on, I pulled out what little hair I have left. I'm telling you, I'm like, oh, my God, you just took him out. You just took him out. And when he made that move and split the needle, threaded the needle there on Bubba and those guys, I think this kid has the confidence. So when I look at this and you look at Darlington, you've got to have that confidence going in there. You've got to have that confidence that he showed in those last few laps. But it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue that momentum. And, you said it. You've got Kevin and you've got Denny. You've got to go through those 2 guys at some point in time.
Hey, I got one guy circled on my list, and that's Kyle Busch. I want to see if the defending champ can find something. And it's not even wins. Jeff, you and I had this conversation. He's currently 14th with 2,003 points. He's currently below the elimination line. He currently is not moving forward in the playoffs. Can Kyle Busch, he's never been tested like this in this scenario. He's always come in with playoff points. He's always been towards the front. Can Kyle Busch muster a charge to Phoenix? And that really starts now. He has to win. He has to win races. He has to gain playoff points. So, Jeff, I have Kyle Busch as the driver. I have circled in his first 3. Can he find a way to defend this title?
Well, we haven't run a race in the playoffs yet, but that doesn't matter because this is what we do. Kyle, who's going to win the championship?
Oh, my gosh. You know what? I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Joey Logano. And just because he's not been hot, but he seems to be getting hot right now or seems to be picking up the pace, I'll go with Joey Logano to win.
All right, Denny Hamlin. If I'm on the spot, Denny Hamlin's the guy. I think currently he's the best who has never, and I think that's going to change. Unfortunately for Mark Martin, he's going to get the award back. I have Denny Hamlin winning the championship this year, finally putting that trophy on the mantle.
I'm gonna have to agree with you, Steve. I think it's Denny Hamlin's time. When you look up every single race, even this past weekend, sitting over the shot to win the race. Seems like every weekend they have a shot. I think that consistency is going to matter. Continually put yourself in that position. And I think Denny is more ready than he's ever been to go win a championship, and he has the team around him to go make it happen. So it all starts this weekend at Darlington, one of our favorite races, extremely historic race. Can't wait to get there, watch some race, and see these guys go at it. Thank you guys for joining us for Splash and Go.
Hey Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.